Hi there. So today I want to talk to you about productivity and organization. If you're looking for something and it takes you time to find it, that wastes time, and that's basically a time management issue. Now, one of the most important productivity and organization principles to me is the principle that everything has got a home. The way to make sure that you don't spend your time looking for stuff and wasting that time is that it must be easy to find and you must know where it is. And this is the idea that everything has got its home. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you how to use this principle. So I'll tell you a little story. My daughter and I, when I pick her up at school, quite often it's quite dark and we walk back home. It's about a 4 or 5 minute walk back home. The problem is that while you're walking in the dark, especially when you're wearing a dark coat like this, is that nobody can see you. The way to overcome that, I'm quite safety conscious, having been an engineer and thinking about risk minimization, just, been hammered and drummed into me and trained into me for just about my entire career. The thing that I like to do is I like to improve my visibility by carrying a light. Now, most people, when they see me and they see this, they say to me, "Oh, what's that? Is that a camera?" Now, that's maybe a testament to the surveillance society that we seem to be living in these days, where the first thing that somebody thinks is that is it a camera? Are you taking images of me? No, that's not the case. It's actually a light. And the light simply is a flashing white light. And what that does is it gives me the ability to make sure, well, that's the red light. So now the problem that I find with my daughter is I bought her one as well because I also want her to be visible. I quite often find that when we're on the way back from school, walking in the dark, I ask her, "So where's your flashy light?" And she doesn't have it with her. Now, the way that I make sure that I keep things, everything has its place, and the place for this light is on my coat, because when I'm walking out at night, that's when I want to be able to have the light. And it's pointless putting it somewhere where I need to remember, oh, it's dark tonight, so I must go and take the light before I leave the house. If I just leave it on the coat, that's where it lives, this is its home, and as and when I need it, that's when I use it. So I've been trying to drill this into my kids as well, make sure that everything has got its home. Keep your flashy light connected to your jacket. That, let's say you want to play with it, you want to go do something with it. You take it off, you use it somewhere else. The first thing you need to do when you're finished with it is get into the habit of putting it back in its home. So it needs to go back on the coat. And it's one of these things where in principle it's really simple, but actually it comes down to the habits that you build and how you systematically and consistently adhere to those habits. Because when I've got to a point now, like for example with this one, where I don't even have to think about it. If I take it off because I need to use it outside to go and feed the rabbits at night, and I come back inside, I don't just put it down on any surface. I put it back where it belongs, in its home, right here. The French have got a word, I think it's called mise en place. Mise en place. Everything in its place. Now, if I've adulterated or killed the pronunciation of the French, I'm terribly sorry. I'm sorry if I've offended anybody. But the principle is everything in its place. Everything has got a home. So this is something that you can do with anything and everything that you have. My keys, for example, have got a very specific place, and they always stay in that same place. When I get back home at night, that's where the keys go. The same for my wallet. My wallet stays in exactly the same place. I always know where it is because it's always in the same place. I use it, I put it back in its place. The frequency with which you use things is important. If there are things that you use on a regular basis, then you definitely want them to have a home. And another principle that I like to apply when it comes to everything in its place and everything that must have a home, there is a relationship between frequency and accessibility. So the position to where you're working with something must be as short as possible. So when you are working with your pens, for example, if you're sitting at your desk, the most sensible place to keep your pens is close to your desk, because that's where you're going to be using it. It's pointless having to walk downstairs and go pick up your pens, come back to the desk, and then start doing your writing. There's distance to use, and there's also frequency of use. So if you use something on a frequent basis, you want to store it close to where you use it on a regular basis. If you only need it once a month or once every 3 months, it doesn't have to be in your immediate work area. You can actually put it in a storage box somewhere else in your house or in the attic. So those are the principles that I like to work with when it comes to productivity around being organized in terms of finding your things when you need them and saving time in that way. This is one of the tips that I use in my productivity tips and tricks. And in this case, tips is more than just a tip. It's actually a philosophy, a way of doing things. And the TIPS is an acronym. It stands for Technology Independent Productivity Systems. So something I aspire to is understanding productivity systems, designing them in such a way that they work for you before you start introducing technology in place to try and get some efficiency gains out of using an app or a tool to be able to help you with that productivity. So that's all from me today. I hope you take some value from this productivity advice. I'll chat to you again soon. Cheers.